Hello, you guys. And today we're here to talk about Black film. Someone re-asked me this question, but they had actually asked me about it. Okay, you guys had generally asked me about this maybe like a couple months ago, and I was like, you guys, when you ask me questions like this, I would love specific questions, and no one really had anything specifically that they wanted to see. Someone asked me this time, like, um, just like some top actresses, mostly like just like to me it feels more so like new blood. We'll see what comes out. um I was actually about to say, like, do the white girls do like top actresses, but I know, for example, Scarlett Johansson was definitely one of the highest paid actresses in Hollywood for years. I'm sure like Angelina Jolie and stuff is up there. So we're just gonna see who and what comes up and what we can expect. I've talked a little bit more about the development of black film around the whole TBFS topic, which I do think is relevant. Do you guys like my Lisa Frank stickers? It's the midnight sun. Yeah, I talked about it mostly around like TBFS, so we're just gonna see what else comes out. But yeah. Okay, so in terms of there being a new like top female actress, I honestly we're talking about black actresses specifically. This could be a girl who at this point, I do think that this is someone who will probably be born after 2000. To me, this kind of gives somebody who's 25 or 26 maybe at this point. So probably born in the earlier 2000s, like 2005 and before. She could also be someone who ends up having other things that she does. Like, for example, I just realized, so Selena Gomez did music, but she was actually a prolific actress first. And I was actually looking at the rare beauty blush that I have. So this could be someone who has other ventures like makeup or other beauty items or things like that. Yeah, this could be someone who honestly gains like their youth, having a lot of success in their youth could be significant. I'm thinking about like Kylie Cosmetics. So like I said, it's very likely that this person will likely have a lot. I'm thinking about perfume specifically. This could be someone who has a lot of beauty items tied to them. It might be, like a really like a very notable bestseller or things like that. Because for example, with Rare Beauty, she has an entire makeup line, but her blushes are probably the most popular and the thing that have kind of put her on the map. This might be someone I there's okay. There's several things about this. This might be someone who comes from a third world country, or they come from like a poor or disadvantaged background. This might even be someone who has some mental disability or is very familiar with mental disability. I said mental. Well, it is a disability for sure, but just disability in general. This might even be things that are onset by for example, like you can be born predisposed to certain things, but other things that you might develop as a result of like trauma in the life. I feel like they might deal with things or they're very familiar with things due to what they've experienced. But this person being quite successful, quite young, is quite significant. Like I said, very similar to a Kylie Jenner. Even Selena Gomez was wildly popular, wasn't she? Am I over exaggerating this? Was she the most followed person on Instagram at any point in time, or am I making that up? This could be someone who very notably dates or marries interracially. I do think this person can be very, very big on diversity. I'm thinking about Ariana Grande, or like I'm thinking about Ariana Grande. So like, we definitely see Ariana with a couple of different kind of guys. In general, like for example, like on her tours and stuff like that, she has a tendency to have a large diversity of people on there. You know what it is? I don't know. People might think she's a little bit coon, a little bit coonish. I don't feel like she's necessarily shucking and jiving, but I do think people could definitely feel like, I don't know. Like I do think that people think that might worry about why she's so diverse. I know that might sound like crazy when you say it out loud, but for example, if a white woman only dates black men, at some point you might look at it like, it's kind of like that. The thing is, I don't think there's going to be a lot of brand new actresses that are going to be super successful. I think that we might, when I say brand new actresses, this might be girls and women who, I'm thinking about the girl, who's the black girl from Percy, is it Percy Jackson? I feel like you could definitely, like, for example, like she just got a role in Cheetah Girls and she could become highly famous off of that. I think that you might see the development of certain people's careers in a way that kind of seemed wild for their trajectory. Like, for example, Jamie Lawson isn't necessarily a new face in acting, but she ended up having a breakthrough role or something that gave her a lot more visibility. So you might see a lot of women who have extensive resumes, they just haven't had a big hit becoming more popular in the public eye. I think there might be one very famous, very new person, like maybe very limited acting experience coming in. And like I said, I mean, this person's generally going to be a quite a young person, so it kind of makes sense where they can kind of grow through that. But I think for the most part, you will see a lot of black actresses who are already here thriving and having bigger careers. Like I said, I do think that TBFS and other popular black women in music and in pop culture kind of lead to this, especially when they are kind of posed as these desirable characters. These could also be specific movies and things like that. For some reason, I referenced The Notebook a lot. Like I reference the Notebook a lot. So this could definitely be pivotal, highly successful, like cult classic romance films and things like that. You know how Marvel had those really big releases with like Endgame or Infinity War? There might be a romance movie that has this kind of cult classic thing, like where even people like, for example, I went to go see Endgame. I have maybe watched maybe one or two more Marvel movies since then. I'm in no way, shape, or form a Marvel movie buff, but I tuned in because it was just the thing to do. Yeah, I also want to say specifically social media. This might be more people becoming very popular on social media, where people kind of see them. I just not video vixens, but like their desirability through the internet could be highly significant. This could even be making skits or making content that could be significant to some of these actresses. I don't know if they're like these are like clips of certain films going viral, or like I don't care if this is like interviews and memes of them becoming very viral as well. I can even see this as people getting scouted from social media. As as well. And that might even be what, like when I say people who are already here, hypothetically, let's say you're a content creator and you've been making content for 10 years, but you're like, for example, like a Drewski, right? Where, and that's what a lot of content creators, like, there's a real goal is surprising to me. Like, I remember Denzel Dion and like Ricky talking about, like, even though they got here through Vine and their personality, their biggest dream was to act. I don't think we've seen either of them in like a real series, like regular position, but you might even notice that there are people who went from making videos on the phone to being super big actors and actresses. Yeah, I do think that you may see a lot of people getting opportunity from the internet in a way that we've never seen before, because it's very hard. Like, I don't know, I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm just thinking, how many people do we know have had real prolific careers in the arts from social media? Like, music is kind of easy to make that pivot, right? But in terms of acting and getting taken seriously, it's very hard to pivot from like a TikTok, making skits on TikTok. Like, for example, Issa Rae, for example. But like, that was YouTube. On top of that, YouTube can be long form content if you make it so. And she had a regular series at that point in time. Even Quinta, she technically made short form content, so like you can kind of see it like that. Quinta, I think is probably Quinta and Issa are probably the best examples of this. But they were like executives behind their shows, right? Like, it wasn't like people just gave them opportunities. They literally created those and they ended up being successful. I feel like there's some people who they don't necessarily have to create a whole platform, but it might be that as well. I can definitely see that. This might be, if you were to ask me, I don't think it'll be any more than, I don't, I think it'll be 10 people or less. To me, this honestly feels like 5 or less. But you might notice a lot more people. Like I said, beauty getting scouted with beauty could be very, very significant. For some reason, I'm thinking about the fact that the North Node is actually in Aquarius right now, and then Leo's on the South Node. So people said this will probably be the death of celebrity culture. But I would counter that this is not inherently the death of celebrity culture. We're just seeing it revolutionized in a way where, which is like very relative to the internet as we already know it, right? Anybody can become famous and anyone can have a platform, but you might notice the average or quote unquote every single day person having access to this in a way that's even more accessible. Like I said, for example, like with content creators, you don't see a lot of that translating to bigger opportunities on a bigger platform. They might be highly successful, right? Like a Kai Cenat. Like Kai Cenat doesn't necessarily need to go be in anybody's movie to have success. I'm sure that he's, very easily a millionaire at this point in time. But there are some people who do want to do the films. They want to be highly successful in film. So that could definitely be on the rise. I do think some people could be upset about this. It might even be a few people who kind of change the stigma of this, because that's another reason why they don't really like to associate with some of these actors. I think they kind of view TikTok as like beneath them, like they don't really take it seriously. So I do think there's some people who people could feel like it's worth it. Like, these are people worth giving an opportunity, especially like, I don't know if this is TBFS or just other people who come up through social media, but people are like, okay, so this is an avenue where you can create respectable actors or actresses, respectable careers, right? I also think this could definitely be this could inspire a lot of jealousy. Like I said, it will definitely be a few people who kind of break out of the mold, and people are upset because for a lot of people, it just never panned out. Like I said, there are people who have been content creators since they were, teenagers, still content creators, nothing wrong with it, but they did want to be actors and actresses. They just could never get booked for anything. Like I said, it's going to be very hard, especially like, let's just say post 2020. How many people do you know made content that ended up in a big film, ended up in a big show? It just simply does not happen. Like I said, I would love to hear examples, but I really can't think of many, if any, off the top of my head. I know I was saying Midnight Sun earlier, but I just keep hearing it. I just keep hearing it. I'm just thinking about the fact that, like, Zara definitely had a rebrand. Someone who was here, she's already been here for a very long time before the career really took off the way it's supposed to. So there's definitely a shift in the way that Black women are viewed in media and film. Like I said, as being more desirable, as having clear brands, as having brands that are enviable, brands that are worth the investment, worth the support. People coming out in droves to support them. Like like the Little Mermaid didn't bomb, but it didn't do super well because people specifically did not want to see a Black Ariel. I think that this is definitely going to be a sentiment that changes over the next decade or so. I said before, I didn't think a film like Children of Blood and Bone was going to do super well. Um, but you might have more like book to movie adaptations that could go super successfully. I'm thinking about Zola as well. So this might be just more written, just I'll just say generally written things coming to film. I also want to say that the increase in Black sci-fi could be significant. I know that I said that I didn't think that that would do well, but I heard that Viola Davis had something that she was developing. In general, Black sci-fi, Black fantasy, just like specifically Black led cast could be highly, highly successful and highly sought after at this point. Like all Black or majority Black cast, Black storytelling could be significant as well. You know how in the 90s, I'll say the 90s, there was a revolution of Black film and Black TV. We could definitely kind of return to that. Like I said, I think this is definitely opportunities being given to people. Like, I don't think this is just people being like, I'm just gonna create my own studio. Which if that's what you want to do, you should absolutely do it. But I don't think this is just that. Like people having to create their own platform. Like, I think people are being given opportunities through things, and maybe at that point they might turn around and create, certain platforms, certain networks that could be right. But I don't think it's going to be like that. I'm thinking about the Source Awards. I honestly wonder if there might be a new kind of award show that comes up. I'm thinking about like social media awards. I don't know if this is something that's associated with TikTok or takes is relevant to content from TikTok. This might be a new. It might be relative to social media. It might be a new. It might be a new like TV channel. Like I said, it might be a new network or things like that. I can definitely see new award shows being a thing. I'm thinking about the Source Awards. Obviously, that came and went, but like yeah, like even Soul Train. We don't really have a lot of Black spaces specifically to celebrate Black art and Black creators, so that could become significant. I also think that makes a big difference. Like I said, like not just the increase in Black media, but specifically Black awards, Black centered awards. Like I said, I do think this is a lot of this is revolved around TBFS. Are very few people, Black superstars succeeding, who kind of, like I said, it's like if I can't get her, I'm going to give somebody else the opportunity because I know this is in right now, and so that could definitely launch. I'm thinking about Helena Troy, and that could launch 1,000 ships, right? This is why figures like TBFS are so important, not just because of what she creates and what she does, but the impact of her success and how it allows other people to succeed based on what she supports, but how people want to support her causes and where she comes from. I also want to say this is not something that just deals with women. I think this is both women and men. I do think that there will definitely be a Black actress who's at the top of the totem pole, like I said. Like, she definitely is going to be viewed as a Scarlett Johansson. This might be a fire sign or something like that. Like, maybe she's a Sag. Or like I said, being foreign from a different place to America or to the West could be significant. And she could definitely make waves in her own right in terms of, like, she could, I'm thinking about Shonda Rhimes or Ava DuVernay. So she could definitely be prolific in that. This also, I'm thinking about Jason Finity and how I said that she, like, of course she's an amazing actress, but I do think that she would find a lot more success should she decide to be behind the camera as a director or producer. So there could definitely be a lot of people taking pivots like that. Like, when they become people who create or write stories, that could also introduce a lot more opportunity to the forefront. Yeah, but it kind of seems like a domino effect. Like, one person is given an opportunity, and people might be inspired by the project that she has or the success that she has. So they're like, I'm going to pursue certain things, and that goes super well. I also want to say, one thing I told Chase Infinity is that I feel like she should definitely be taking on passion projects at this point in time, even if it's not for the biggest thing, even if it's just doing a favor for a friend or accepting a super low cost to get the opportunity and to get the exposure. So that could be significant as well. Passion projects going really, really well or kind of exploding. Okay, I am gonna stop here, but it's definitely the time to create the song, to write that song, to put that skit out there, to create the thing. Yeah, that was definitely a lot shorter than I thought it would be. Let me know if you guys have any more questions specific to this. Like I said, with the TBFS stuff, I'm not gonna lie, I'm at the point where I'm finishing up all the requests I have. So I'm like, I don't know how much else I have to give to the topic. So I would love if you guys have specific things that you want to see and things that you have like deep dives that you guys have questions on. I would appreciate those questions. Whatever. I don't even know what I just said, but yeah, I will see you guys in the next one.